The paper is Rethinking Digital Infrastructure Architecture for Deep Technologies in Africa, and here I am proposing a collaborative approach. This topic really focuses on a political perspective, really. We are not going into the details of the architecture of the systems, but I am focused on digital infrastructure and specifically midline. So here we are talking about data center and computing capabilities. And the implementation is for the hardware part of it. And basically, it is discussing how the sector operates, how the infrastructure is being implemented, the challenges and potential solutions that can address security at that level. So first of all, this study focuses on the challenges, especially faced by implementation of AI, machine learning, and Internet of Things at scale. So here we are talking about, for example, self-driving cars. We are talking about industrial Internet of Things and how they are implemented. And basically, such technologies rely heavily on robust digital infrastructure, including high computing capabilities, which while there is a global surge in investment in these facilities, especially data centers, Africa in itself accounts for less than 1% of the data centers, normal data centers, and computing capabilities, with virtually non-existent high density capacity. So first of all, we have to look into the journey that we have experienced towards the development of digital infrastructure. And here we look at the beginning of the first mile development. And we observed that for the past 2 decades, there have been a shift towards collaboration, particularly in the first mile. For example, the laying of the first undersea fiber cable, we saw that it took government intervention, which led to the laying of the Thames undersea cable, and this was done deliberately by the government of Kenya, and which was followed by the East African submarine cable. And it took governments to invest in this for the private sector to come and participate into this sector. So this public effort led to the growth of the last mile connectivity, opening the digital economy, which paved way for investment at the first mile. And as demand for intensive application grew, that's when we saw the likes of Equinix, Google, and other big tech such as Microsoft investing into the first mile infrastructure. This investment has trickled down, especially to the improvement of connectivity, such as in Kenya, as telecom companies expanded their reach and their bandwidth capabilities to meet the growing demand. However, the current infrastructure falls short when it comes to the needs for the future. And as I mentioned before, this digital infrastructure demands very reliable, high-speed and accessible interconnectedness. However, the flexibility of managing the intricate digital infrastructure requires us to rethink how we are deploying the same. So we first of all look at what's being done currently. This is not a conversation that's unique to Africa in itself, and it revolves around how best we can collaborate at the infrastructure layer while competing at the service layer. And for example, within some segment of the industry, network as a service has been deployed as one of the best solutions to implement this. So it simplifies the application development and enabling partners with large cloud providers and content application providers. This has, for example, fostered innovation and efficiency at the service layer, where companies are able to focus on their core competency while leveraging on the shared resources. So some of the challenges that we are facing is that there is very high initial cost of participating within a NAS model, for example. And here we are seeing startups, for example, and other application developers facing a greater challenge, because once you deploy uh, an Internet of Things application, such as automated vehicles, you are immediately faced with a challenge where you are unable to deploy your technology due to the huge infrastructure requirement. And the existing infrastructure has a problem, especially with vendor lock-in, which hinders participation by smaller businesses and startups. And the current investment model as it is, there is concern of market concentration of dominant players who emerge within the infrastructure layers, and they stifle competition and end up determining the pricing, making innovation and technology deployment inaccessible to segments such as academia, who are unable to invest in technology. So currently, connected collaborative computing models is being explored, especially within the European Union, and the idea is that it facilitates the presence of significant computational on the edge, especially for devices equipped with AI processors in a wide range of devices, including robots, drone, medical devices, wearable, and self-driving cars. So the biggest question at the moment is, how are we deploying these networks in terms of how are we investing into into the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, while enabling players to innovate and participate in a very open and accessible and secure manner. So one of the things that we can learn is from the National Research Education Networks, who have over time provided us with a framework of thought. For example, we have the AARNet of Australia, the Giant Network in Europe, and Internet 2 in the US. And basically what they do is that the investment in these facilities is done in a very democratic, open manner, where key players participate in the investment part, and then they use these facilities, which are actually very high quality, to deploy their service offering, ensuring accessibility and giving everyone a level playing ground. So, in that regard, how does the African digital infrastructure ecosystem operate in terms of the mid-mile connectivity? So currently we have the AU Digital Transformation Strategy for Africa 2020 to 2030. We have their vision for the single Africa digital market. We have the digital financial inclusion and smart Africa, who are currently operating at the continental level to make sure that the legal, political, and public finance architecture facilitates investment into the infrastructure. At the international level, we do have international cooperation frameworks such as the Data Governance in Africa Initiative, ourselves, the Digital Investment Facility, and the World Bank's the World Bank's Group Digital Economy for Africa. And while all of them still foster collaboration and policy harmonization, focusing on traditional infrastructure, these may not fully address the need for the requirement for deploying deep technology across the continent. And this is understandable, since the delivery of the technology of the infrastructure of the future is rather a new frontier, and even for developed countries, it's something that they're still struggling with as to how best they could deploy the technology safely, especially within the democratic free market space. So what are the possible approaches that could be used in the deployment? For example, we have seen, at least from the public sector, it's a bit easier because coordination within, for example, deployment of GovStack, government is at the heart of it. So for the market systems, it's very important that we establish regional and industry-specific consortia who can invest in this infrastructure and then set the rules on how this infrastructure could be used, how it's accessed, and the extent to which the infrastructure is open. Again, for the public sector, there's very high need for incentivized collaboration. Like, for example, if the consortia are developed, then they could negotiate incentives from government. For example, self-driving cars and integrated transport systems, they could negotiate collaboration and, for example, tax breaks to enable them develop this infrastructure at the cheapest price possible. Again, there is need to promote open standards and interoperability, and this cannot be possible without the existence of such consortia. And also, there is need for government to develop a comprehensive regulatory framework for data security and privacy to ensure that whatever public digital infrastructure is being deployed operates within a secure environment and meets certain security threshold. On programmatic level, it's very important that our key stakeholders operating within these systems start thinking about how best they could build the capacity and skills of key stakeholders in government, the private sector, the civil society, on how they could come together, develop this infrastructure, and the type of organizations that will manage this infrastructure. And of course, there is very good need to have very well thought comprehensive PPPs to facilitate investment and facilitate research and innovation, especially from academia, who currently are excluded by market forces and public institutions from participating into the development, participating in this space. Again, community engagement and stakeholder consultations, especially with civil societies, on how best these systems could be deployed in a very democratic, inclusive manner. So, yeah, thank you. That's all from my end. So I'm happy to answer any question.